Well, hello and welcome to another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com, where first and foremost, we are a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or loved one, or you're actively in recovery a short time or maybe many, many years, you're going to find all kinds of information related to addiction, recovery, really living a happy, successful, sober life in Recovery Today. My name is Rob Hanley. I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today, and I've got another great guest, somebody I was really personally very excited to talk about kind of from my own personal story and to spotlight and bring attention to, because she's doing some really, really cool things. I'd like everybody to meet Megan Pomeroy.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Let me give a 50,000-mile view of who you are. Megan is the director of a place called Coral Sands Academy in St. George, Utah. And she created this school almost 3 years ago with an intention in mind to help students who are not finding success in traditional school environments. Maybe they've also gone to treatment centers or wilderness programs and things like that. She's worked with at-risk youth now for about 15 years. Her background, she probably would guess, is special education. She's got a master's degree in technology, but really most importantly is she's got a real passion for helping students, and I might even add families, to find their path to success. So thanks for taking a minute to jump on, Megan, and tell everybody a little bit about what I thought was so cool when we met.
Well, thank you for doing this, for having me on. I created Coral Sands Academy. It's an online private school and really dedicated to honing in on the students' strengths. I think one of the problems with students in recovery or students who go to treatment is they're so lost and hopeless, and they get lost in the school system, or they get kind of pushed to the side because their addiction always takes the forefront, and therefore their academics just kind of goes down and down and down, and therefore they lose hope and they lose self-worth in school. And our goal at Coral Sands is to help rebuild that. And so one of our kind of tagline, I guess, is creating and rebuilding opportunities. Our goal is really to make sure kids know that when they are leaving high school, that they have every door open to them that they want. And even if they've made some mistakes or done something stupid or whatever in the past, that can be, they can come back from that, and we're here to help them do that.
You know, I love that kind of for a nice kind of start in a 30,000-foot, you know, maintaining anonymity, really not, because the story that you'd read here with the features, it's really kind of my story, honestly. This is something that affects everybody. I like to think that nice home, nice family, nice everything, but it's not my story. It's everybody's story. So meeting you really hit close to home for me, because there's a lot of thoughts and things like that about kids that are struggling. And I think there's a lot of preconception by families of people that don't have kids that are struggling that there's something wrong, or it's really strange because families might have one child that accelerates a lot and another one, for whatever reason, it's like, are you the same? I mean, is this the milkman's kid? Like, I don't understand how this is possible. So do you deal, first of all, I guess I would say, with is that atypical or typical, or happens sometimes, or is it, you know, what are your thoughts on kind of how kids start out to kind of be troubled in the first place?
You know, generally it's funny that you say that, because almost every single parent that I talk to, especially a student who has a sibling who's, you know, the troubled student has a sibling, you know, their sibling's always successful. You know, they don't have the same problems. And I think that's one thing that we end up doing is we compare. We end up comparing, oh, well, they don't have the same problems, when really each kid is different. And I think we all end up doing that in some way, shape, or form. And then, two, I think what happens is at a very young age, kids need help in school, and they don't know how to ask for it. There's an expectation in school. There's this that needs to happen, X, Y, and Z. And I think there's a lot of teachers who don't know how to reach kids who learn this way.
Yeah.
And the kid learns differently, and the most common denominator is, you know, I wasn't able to learn in this environment. I wasn't able to learn this, and so they get farther and farther behind, which in turn hurts their self-esteem, because while they're comparing themselves to their peers. Well, my peers aren't struggling, or my sister didn't struggle in this class, or my brother didn't struggle in this class. And I think they just end up getting this narrative in their head that school's not for me. School's not my jam. I don't do school.
It's a really different world. I think the first thing is you're kind of talking there is I'm thinking maybe it's boys and girls, but I'm coming from a male perspective. I'm like, well, it's not cool, man. Like, it's not cool to like say that you need extra help. And then there's this underlying thing that it took me personally. And thank God that I grew up actually when I did. I'm 54, so I graduated from high school in 1983, and you know, I guess telling on myself a little bit, I got suspended, man, in my senior year, I think, of school, or my junior year. I think it was like 3 months I got caught with a beer. And of course, I was just all up in arms that I'd only, you know, got caught, you know, by a policeman with a beer. Everybody else is drinking, you know, Jack Daniels, and it was just a beer. But today, like that kind of thing, I mean, we were able to keep that and contain that within my family. There's not Facebook and social media, and I'm not comparing myself to a jillion other kids that are out there, right? I mean, I got caught hell from my parents. I did school on the telephone because there wasn't any internet, and then I was actually able to go back to school, and you know, it wasn't that bad. But I think the main thing is, like, it's not cool, and then there's this underlying thing as kids that you think, at least with me, is I thought a lot like, am I dumb? Maybe I'm dumb because everybody else seems a lot smarter than me. And I'm not sure. And I ended up getting a degree in electrical engineering. So this is harder for me than most anybody. But there's always this question like, am I dumb? Do you find that to be like one of the main kind of things in terms of self-identity with these kids, that they just think they're not dumb, they're not smart?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, and that's such a hard question to answer because I think that narrative starts so young. And I think more often than not, kind of when I go through the history of a lot of my students, it starts around 3rd, 4th grade. And I tell parents, I say, if students haven't bought into school by 5th grade, they're probably not going to. And part of that is not only that narrative of I'm dumb, but it's almost like, how do I say it? They want to find their identity in being the class clown because that's funny. That's cool.
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
And they don't know how to, you know, there's a lot of, especially with the depression, with the rise in depression over the last 10, 15 years and anxiety issues, I think kids' brains are firing on all cylinders, that they're not absorbing information the same. So, you know, if you're not understanding, then you're an idiot. You know, like, that's the only logical conclusion in a lot of kids' minds is it's not that their anxiety is high because they don't know that. I mean, haven't identified that yet, or their depression's high. It's I'm an idiot, and so I'm going to be funny, or I'm going to go smoke pot, or I'm going to go ditch this class, or I'm going to do whatever because that's easy and that's fun.
You know, with me, and I suspect maybe with my own child in that regard, I think that a lot of it is that you're funny because it's a deflection, and then there's always in the back of your mind like, you know, it was okay that I didn't pass that, or I failed this, or whatever it was, because I actually didn't try. And since I didn't try, it's okay that I failed because I didn't even try. And so I think there's this apprehension and anxiety about, like, if I try and fail, then I'm really screwed, because then I actually find out that I don't have it. I don't have what it takes, and it probably validates that I am dumb. So that scares the hell out of me.
Oh, yeah, that fear of putting all your work in and, you know, not making it, not being successful, then you're proving yourself right, and that's scary. But, you know, what I tell students is, if there's no such thing as real failure. I mean, you may not hit the goal exactly where you wanted, but there's going to be growth. There's going to be success in trying your hardest. And so trying to change that narrative a little bit and helping kids understand that you may not always hit the goal exactly on the mark, but if you're playing darts, you still get points for hitting the farthest circle, right?
I love that.
And so changing kind of their idea of that goal, Because for some reason as a society, if we're not hitting it at 100%, then we fail. It's all or nothing. And I try to help students realize
that means you lose. If you don't win,
yeah.
you lose.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I mean, they have that, what's that, that saying, if you're not the winner, you're the first loser, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we live in a very competitive society. What was the need that you felt like? I mean, you're a special education teacher. You've got a master's degree. You've been doing this a while. You're reaching kids. So, and there's a lot of different. You're far from the first private school. It's been private schools since there's been school. What was the need that you saw? Like, I want to do something different, because I saw this as actually very different. You yourself seem to be the unique selling proposition. You're the differentiator. But tell us a little bit about kind of like what you saw that was out there, maybe what was good, and then what you set out to do that was different.
Oh, it's a loaded question. But the kind of the holes I saw in education is, as students are changing and as mental health problems and substance abuse and all of these things are increasing in society, education's not matching that. It seems like education's constantly in catch-up mode. It's constantly trying to just manage these kids and trying to, I guess, trying to watch, how I say this. They're trying to manage these kids, and so it's always, it's draining resources on schools. It's draining, the kids aren't finding success. And then I also saw a lot of kids were just getting pushed through the system. They were passing these classes, and they were passing that they shouldn't have been. They didn't have the foundational knowledge, and so it's almost like teachers were saying, here's a D-, get out of my class. And as I saw this trend happening, I feel like, with technology the way it is and education the way it is, there's got to be a way to match these kids with where they're at and build from there. And online schooling gives me the opportunity to, okay, this is where you're at. This is your foundation. Let's start there, and then we're going to build, and we're going to continue to build, and we're going to continue until we see where your potential is. Because right now, most kids don't know where their potential is. They don't even know what their hardest, because as we just said, kids don't want to try their hardest. So we work on different learning style modalities, and we work on some different things like study skills. And my ultimate goal of students is that they're the most independent learner they can be by the time they graduate. They know what their needs are, and they can advocate for those needs. And that's the other thing, and that's really the biggest thing for me.
They can say, like, no, I actually don't learn like that, or I learn best this way. Is that what you're saying? They can advocate for their needs?
Yeah, or not that, or they say, you know what, I'm not understanding that. Here, do you have a sheet of notes that you can give me? Or, can I stay after class and can I review this? And if kids are auditory learners, for example, if they stayed after class and explained to the teacher what they heard the teacher say, that's gonna exponentially grow their learning. If they're a visual learner and they learn how to draw pictures and they learn how to do some things, and they can say, is this kind of what you meant? And clarifying and being able to advocate, like, I'm pretty sure this is what you meant, this is how I studied, and advocating to the teacher for that support and making sure that their parents know how they learn so they can support that as well.
So your model, first of all, I thought it was really cool as we were putting all this together that you had the forethought to take something that's very unique, and I really want to drill down into the phone call that we had, and I shared some stuff personally, and you told me some things in a few minutes that were, I mean, huge, really, really game-changing for me as a parent. But you're working now not only with individual parents, but you're also working with treatment facilities and places that actually specialize in substance abuse and helping kids get off drugs or behavior issues and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so I work with a couple of schools right now. Eagle Ranch Academy is one, and they're actually the ones I started with, and kind of they allowed me to build Coral Sands the way that it is, and so they put a lot of investment and belief in me.
And Eagle Sands Eagle Sands is a teen treatment center, substance abuse place, and then right there in St. George as well, right? In St. George, Utah.
Yes, yeah, Eagle Ranch is here in St. George, Utah, and they And so one of the cool things with that is kids in treatment, that's a whole other animal. I mean, we're dealing with lots of therapeutic issues, and they're breaking down walls and building them back up, kind of a thing. And one of the things I've noticed in working with students in treatment is how vulnerable they are. And so therefore, it's a good time to get in there and start building that solid foundation with where their belief system with academics is. And I can get to the root of what they want in life and where they're moving. And so as they leave treatment, they can carry on with Coral Sands and keep finding that success and hopes, and hopefully do that. And then, so that's a different dynamic because you're working with kids who are kind of re-identifying who they are and what they want out of life. And then students who are at home who have struggled and been kind of kicked out of school or whatever, needed alternative education, they're a little harder because they have a lot more freedoms. And so that one takes a lot more tutoring meetings and a lot more foundational assessing.
So what about a parent that maybe has had their student, their son or daughter at a place for some period of time, whether it was behavior, substance abuse, or whatever? And usually I find, from my own experience, I find that that's something that's online. But the challenge is now coming back kind of into a regular, normal, or a family environment, of a lack of motivation to actually get on and do the work. Like, life is work. You have to work. It's not just, I mean, how do you tap into school's dumb? School's stupid. This subject is stupid. How do you get past that?
After kids have left treatment, I mean, by the time they're ready to leave treatment, usually their motivation's up. However, once they get into the real world, I would say after 6 weeks is when I see a sharp decline in that motivation because the world is hitting them and they got all these stimulus coming at them, and oh my gosh, you were in treatment. That's and you've gone square, you've gone soft on it. They get all these friends talking and chirping their ears. And one of the things my first red flag is when they are starting to decline on their academics. If they're carrying on with me, then I say, okay, well, you've only logged in for 2 days this week. What's going on? And trying to use that relationship that I have with them to help them start to see, okay, I'm struggling. Let's get back to where we were. If it gets too far down the road, I would say if it's 8 weeks and they're still struggling, then I would I tell kids we have a choice to make. You got to decide what you want to do because we can't keep going down this rabbit hole. And it is hard. It is hard to maintain that motivation, and kids have to really get real with themselves and honest with what they want and where they want to go. And I really have those hard conversations with kids, like, what are we doing and why are we doing it and which way are we going? And
but my parents make me do it. I don't want it. They might not even tell you that, but that's what they're thinking is, I don't want to do this. It's dumb, and the only reason I'm doing it is because my parents make me do it.
I try to eliminate the parent factor because in my mind, I say to kids, you're the only one that will ever reap the rewards of this. You're the only one who will ever get anything out of your academics. So, when they start to, it's more like, what is your reasoning behind this? And I have those candid conversations. What is going on with you that you've lost this motivation? And most kids come to the, it's my friends, it's, I'm getting busy, I'm losing my structure. And I say, well, let's get back to that structure. And I hold them accountable. There's one student right now who I have called with every single day. 5 days a week, we have a phone call to keep them on track. All right, did you get this done today? Did you get this done today? Because, he can be successful, but right now life is chirping at him and getting harder and harder. So, and then the reality of their addiction. The students who are living in active addiction and, are smoking pot every day or whatever, that, their brain is focused on something else. And really getting to the real root of that. And, for some kids it is the best bet. All right, if you can pass a GED, I'll give them a pretest to see if they can go there. Some kids, I ask them to go up to the local tech school and we'll dual enroll. Most tech schools will dual enroll with me. I'm just whatever's going to get them into that next step and get them out of their current rut. I guess that's what this all comes down to, is just helping kids get out of whatever rut they get themselves into after treatment, and helping them pull themselves out of that. So, you know, if it's, all right, let's make an appointment with tech school. Let's go to community college, make an appointment, do dual enrollment. I give students credit for work release if they have jobs that they're actually putting effort into. That's an easy credit for them.
Very cool.
You know, I try to get creative with how I give credits and stuff like that too.
And that's actually because one of the things I do want to kind of bring out on here that I thought was cool is that it's not like just some idea that you have. This is an actual accredited, like by national standards accredited facility.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they finish,
Advanced Ed.
It's an accredited school.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And Advanced Ed is our accreditation, which is a national accreditor. So they, you know, they sign off on everything that I do, and also all my teachers are licensed teachers. I have a teacher for every subject, and so yeah, we're legit. So
let me kind of shift gears. If the child has been at some facility and they're coming back, and I know it's not a one-size-fits-all, but in general, I guess I would say, do you think that it's advisable that the child be introduced back into the old high school, or maybe it's probably high school, not junior high school, but maybe it is. Hopefully it's not elementary school, but do you think that it's advisable to have them go back to the same school, or what are your thoughts on peer pressure and like, oh man, like you're back, did you find Jesus, did they, what did they do to you, all the kind of whatever it might be?
No, I've seen a couple of kids be successful going back into the same environment, but it is hard. It's really just hard on that.
Kids are brutal.
And also, it's not even just kids, to be perfectly honest. They have a reputation with the teachers. They have a reputation with the administration. And they have to work so hard to prove that they're doing something different that at some point, I think they just go, you know what, you think that's who I am, that's going to be. Mm-hmm. I can't keep fighting. And really, that 6-week mark, I've done some trend analysis with the clinical director, and really that 6-week mark is so crucial with kids. That's really when they start to break down a little bit, and that narrative comes back, and it's really important to stay on top of those kind of marks. It's like 6 weeks, 4 months, 6 months. Those are that's the time frame that we see kids really start to struggle.
So you touched on something, and I let it go because I actually had it as a question, is what are your thoughts on teen suicide and like what's going on? Because as I was researching some of this, I'd heard some, but I think it's it's at least 3 times what it was in 2007. It might be 4. I forgot what it is, but it's like at least doubled or tripled or quadrupled. Like, what is the deal?
That's hard because, when you see kids, even adolescent treatment centers are popping up all over the place. Mental health is just becoming such a problem with students, with young kids. And, I had a parent contact me that their kid was talking about suicide in the 4th grade. They were in 4th grade. Oh, and she's like, I got to get out of school. What do I do? It's 4th grade and they're talking about suicide. And really, there is one common factor, and that is just students, I think social media is great in a lot of ways, but then for kids, it seems like that comparison that is really just shot through the roof. Like, I'm not many people like this video, or I only have this many followers, or Snapchat is, kids just, they have so much coming at them. And then on top of that, there is that factor of, maybe they're not fitting the mold, they're not fitting into something, that they just have so much self-doubt and so little self-worth. I mean, kids just feel like they don't, the world is a better place without them, and that depression just nags at them, and parents aren't catching it until they're already so far in that hole. And teachers aren't catching it because teachers are just so much in maintenance mode that they're not catching these kids really struggling emotionally.
Do you think that this is a big factor of it? Like how much is it that we've got a new appendage to our bodies now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, I think Well, and there is a lot of studies out there that are saying that too much screen time does affect emotional issues and there can be depression issues associated. I've read there are some studies on that right now. But I do think that kids, for some reason, that comparison factor and that fear, they have so much fear to fail. And, they don't make the basketball team or something doesn't happen the way that they had planned. They look at it like such a failure. There's just I'm the worst. And so I think it goes back to kind of what we initially were talking about, and that is, if you're not the best, you're the worst. And there's just, they don't value the little things or their little talents, If they're not the star of the basketball team, then why are they even playing?
Are we doing something different as parents today? Now, I'm quite a bit older than you are, but are we doing something different today as parents that, like, our parents didn't do? I mean, everybody's seen the joke about, you drink out of the garden hose, you get on your bike, you're gone for hours, there's no cell phone, there's no nothing, but is there, or also it feeds into, everybody's a winner, and everybody gets a participation award, or even things now, like I've heard schools, like, they don't have a valedictorian anymore. Like, there's not any, on one side, there's the whole thing about, if you're not a winner, you're a loser, but then on the other side, it's like, no, we can't have any winners. Like, how do we find a middle ground to stuff like this?
I think that's
Did I stump you?
No, I think I think there is healthy competition. I think there is that sense of, when you are successful at trying your hardest thing, esteem that does. I'll use myself as an example. I love basketball. As a kid, I would spend hours playing, and I was even talking to my 13-year-old the other day, and I said, what are you passionate about? What do you love? Like, what is something that gets you moving in life? And, she's like, well, I like this, and I like lacrosse, and I like hunting, and I like these things. And I said, then what do you do to make yourself better at them? How do you increase? Because I never see you practice. You're never out doing stuff. And she said, well, I don't know. I just do it. And I said, but where's the sense of work? What work are you looking? Because you never be great at something without working at it. And I worked really hard at basketball, and in ninth grade I didn't make the team, and it defeated me. But I went to the gym and I worked out as hard as I could, and then I tried out again sophomore year. That sense of you get knocked down and you pick yourself back up. But that work was behind it. And I guess that's the biggest thing that I see right now is there's no work with kids. They're not really putting their heart and soul into anything. There's no passion. And therefore, with no passion comes no reward. So as you're just kind of coasting and you're living on your phone and you're playing video games and all those kind of things, there's just nothing that says you were successful. There's nothing tangible to say, I did this. I worked really hard, and I may not have won the first time, but I ultimately got it. And I'm seeing it in my own 13-year-old where and it comes down to those boundaries where I say, you do this or, you're not going to you get your school done. She's a Coral 10 student. So get your schoolwork done or you're not going to go hang out with your friends. She doesn't really care about hanging out with her friends. That doesn't get her going anymore. So, you've had to get creative and hold that and help her start to discover, try new things. I told her, I said, if you want to try something new that you'll be passionate about, let's try it. But finding that passion and finding that work ethic, that sense of, I'm going to put my all into this and see where I land, kind of a thing.
So that's really the main thing. Like when we talked, it was like this light bulb went off, and I kind of saw this as like the movie Inception, with Leonardo DiCaprio. This whole idea of tapping into and finding out, like, what is it that motivates the child. And I was seeing this, part of the thing, even from when my kids were little, they would say, I didn't like them to use the word can't. I don't like can't. And I would tell them, well, it's not really can't. It's that you're not motivated enough. I can't reach that glass when they're littler. You know, I can't reach that up here. And I said, well, I tell you what, I'll give you $100 if you can get it. And you don't even really have to tell them how. They get a chair, they figure it out, they solve it. And the reason is because they're motivated. So a lot of kids today are like, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but it's not that they don't know. It's actually the more important thing is the real answer is I don't know, and I actually don't care. And it's perfectly cool that I don't know. Like, I don't know, don't care type of a thing. So how do you tap into and find out, like, what is it that drives this kid? Like, don't we all have ambitions? And I mean, how do you reach that and then start to develop that? Because that was some of what I was really impressed by when we were talking. Like, I find out what makes him tick, and then I start, you know, like, what did you want to, what did you, explain that a little bit and kind of share some of what our conversation was about that.
Yeah, you know, I think motivation is such a, and I think that kind of comes to, that's kind of the crux of everything right now is just lack of motivation, lack of drive. I mean, I'll use this example. I have a student that I actually was talking to yesterday who he has zero buy-in to school. He does not care. He doesn't see a need for it. He thinks he'll just be just fine without it. And I said, okay, so I said, what do you love? Like, I had the same conversation, and he's like, I love scooters. I love riding scooters. Like going to the skate park and scooting around and all that, doing tricks. And I said, okay, what do you think it would take to be a professional at that? And he's like, so he listed a bunch of things to be a professional scooter, I don't know how to say that anyway.
Yeah, skateboarder, yeah, whatever it will be, yeah.
Yeah, all that. And I said, there's one common theme with all of this, and that is you need a minimum of a high school diploma. And I said, so what does that mean in terms of you doing math? He hates math, right? And I said, you're in geometry right now. All it is angles. So I had him make a little paper scooter, and he's using that as kind of his ruler for, like, angles and stuff. I was like, a scooter's almost a right angle. I said, that's, you know, you can't get any better than that in terms of the way you're doing your triangles and things. And so, you know, sometimes you just have to take it unit by unit when it comes to that motivation. Another thing I try to do is get kids to tap into their first, second, third grade selves of what did you want to be? Who did you, when you were that young, who did you want to be? And, you know, they always have, I want to be a professional football player. I wanted to be an astronaut, or, you know, and I said, well, what happened? Oh, I don't really know. You know, I just kind of seemed I mean, that was just my silly kid self. And I said, there are thousands of jobs out there, millions. And some deal with football and some don't. But you can make almost anything, you know, and we start talking about having them research what kind of jobs they could do with their specific skill set. I should probably add that in. We do a skill set inventory, and I try to tap in not only with the learning assessment, but really what their strengths are and interests are. And as we look at that, like if the kid is very kinesthetic, you know, what hands-on thing do they like? And most of the time it's, you know what, I'd love to work on cars and build cars. And, you know, our girls are, I would love to be able to own my own bakery. That's, you know, a common one I get. And I said, okay, then this is, you know, we start looking at, like, outlining what that would look like. So the kids are, oh, there's a path. I can see where I could see where I could do this. So this isn't just a lofty dream. This could actually happen if I wanted it to. And same with, like, you know, you may not be able to be an astronaut, but what could you do? You know, what is out there that is, you know, similar, that's in your skill set?
Maybe you could join the Air Force. Maybe it's possible that you could even work at NASA in some kind of capacity. Maybe you're not a rocket scientist, but there's, and so what I had liked was that there's either similar thing, because it's actually not really even about that dream. Football player, NBA, whatever it would be, astronaut, but it's actually the feeling overall that you get for doing that. Like, well, what would you like about that? Like, well, everybody would think that I'm great. It would be fun. It would be this. and then to break that down and put it in, maybe, well, you like the team, about being a pro football player, you like the team's aspect of it. What about being a trainer, potentially, or something like that? Or the business side of it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Right. And and a lot of kids understanding that there's something out there for everybody to be successful at, and letting them realize that you just got to find your niche, find what you love. And I tell my story of kind of the path I went down to, because I never thought I would own thought I would run a online private school. That was never even the realm of possibility. I started college to be a physical therapist, and happened to work at the behavioral hospital in the physical therapy department. And I was like, man, these people. And I worked with the teens, and I was like, wow, I love this. And it just kind of rocket ship from there. And that's what I tell kids. I was like, you just got to find that one thing. And so getting them more experience trying different things as well, and getting them exposed to. So sometimes I'll say, okay, your assignment today is to go find a job and ask if you can shadow, or interview somebody who has a specific job, or just get them more exposed.
Yeah, I love that. I've had conversations. I remember a few years ago. In fact, I remember exactly. It was Easter Sunday, and we had some family over, and there was somebody that was a friend, and it was a young person. And I think they were in high school, and we got talking. I said, what do you think you want to do? It was a real nice, well-adjusted kid. They said, I think I want to be a dentist. And I said, oh, that's really, really cool. Do you know any dentists? And they said, no. And so then I kind of started asking the next, well, what makes you want to? Well, I just think that it would be such and such. It makes a lot. Do you know how much money they make? So I finally, on the fly, I created something. I said, well, what you should do is you should contact some dentist offices, and you have a new program starting right now, and it's called Take a Dentist to Lunch Day. And Take a Dentist to Lunch Day is where lunch is on me, and I'm a young person thinking that I might want to be a dentist, but before I do that, I want to be able to ask you, do you like it, and what do you not like about it, and would you do it again, and how much money can a dentist make, and what kind of life? Take a dentist to lunch day, take a whatever it would be to lunch kind of day, and be a detective and try to figure out before you set down that path that, yeah, I might like that. That sounds pretty cool, type of a thing. So I love that. That's very synchronistic. So tell me a couple of some cool success stories and stuff. I was blown away by somebody that enters the program as a trouble teen, and this is open again, not only to the few different how many of our treatment centers you have, because I know that you're making a lot of waves that are out there, but if a treatment center, all kinds of people will see this, treatment center owners, sober, teen stuff is exploding. You are able to integrate into any particular program, and also individual parents can contact you and enroll their kids too. How does your business model kind of work?
You mean in terms of just kind of how people can enroll, or any of that?
Yeah.
But really any K through 12 student can, if a parent just needs to contact us through our website, and then I'll fill out some registration forms and things like that. They'll get the handbook and things, and then the first initial call that I have, or video call, or whatever that may be, is kind of goal setting, and also some specifics on what the student needs to do, getting transcripts, all that kind of stuff, kind of what we're looking at. When it comes to programs, things like that, it's really just analyzing all the students, figuring out the best path and the best kind of modality that's going to work. I'm very specific on individualizing. While we have kind of our baseline curriculum, I am very, very passionate about the piece in our program that is we individualize to each student's needs. If a student is not successful in a class, like an online class, then we will figure out how to help them be successful, and even if that's some offline activities that they can email back, or whatever that is, like adding supplemental work or job experience work or anything like that, we really try hard to modify and individualize for each student, because no two students learn the same, and I truly believe that. And then so, you know, it's kind of a process when it's working with other programs because it does take some time to integrate. But we do our best to make sure that happens as smoothly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And individual students ensuring that they, you know, their goals and really, you know, I always have the parents call like, oh, this goal, we want to get this accomplished and this accomplished. And I say, that's well and good, but what is, you know, and then I want to know what the students' accomplishments are because that's really where that baseline of motivation comes. And if their answer is my mom wants me to graduate high school, then we have to have a real honest conversation at that point. I mean, I'll still work with you, but we gotta break that down a little bit.
Like what do you
I try really hard. Yeah, and I try to build that relationship with kids that I'm an advocate for them. I do some special ed advocacy work and IEPs and things like that. I am a student advocate at my core, making sure that their needs are met, but also understanding that I'm going to hold them their feet to the fire, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of basically what that looks like. Individualizing, though, is kind of our core belief.
Starting out with the what did you want to do, like when you were a little kid and everything was open to you type of a thing. Starting from there.
Yeah.
And then discovering kinesthetic, auditory, visual type learning, and then dividing a program around all of that. Tell me, Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, getting our baseline stuff, the first call is roughly an hour, and we just build from there.
Nice. So I started the one question, and then I rabbit trailed off my ADD into another question here. So one question, which was my next, is give me some cool success stories that you have, because I'm thinking of like troubled teens, so the before and after type of thing. Like, give me some nuggets of hope for a parent that's out there that's thinking like, I don't know, man, like, you know, I'm just praying, man. Like, you know, give me a couple of nuggets of hope.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest things is, I mean, the online school for some reason still has kind of a stigma attached to it, where people are like, oh, you went to online
school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real. And we try hard to, you know, combat that. That, you know, they're putting some work in. It's not as always as easy as it sounds. But we've had some students, you know, do some cool things. I mean, I have students at every college you can think of across the country. Most recently, and with scholarships, I have a student who...
With scholarships. You have kids that went to your school that are now on college scholarships.
Yeah, that are on college scholarships, academic-based scholarships as well. I mean...
Wow.
I've had kids, I mean, we do ACT and all that, SAT prep, and so, I mean, I've had a kid, most recently I had a kid get a 31 on the ACT, and he has a high GPA, and he's looking to go back to California, and he's got some really good prospects kind of for him. I've had kids do internships at Google. I've had kids do internships at Microsoft. I've had kids go into, I have 3 kids that are in med school right now.
Really? And
yeah,
were they troubled at one time, or it was just more of a...
These students were all in treatment at one point. One student, they all kind of got kicked out of the traditional learning environment. And
these kids, you have kids at like medical school, at least one, I'll say, that was like kicked out of regular school, had substance abuse problems, and now they're in medical school. Mm-hmm. That went to your school. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I got a couple kids who've graduated in engineering. I've got some kids who, computer sciences is a big one. I've got some kids a lot of kids who go into computer sciences, they end up working on doing the online classes. They're like, I actually really like computers, and going into that field. And then, I have kids who go to trade school, and then I have a student who just opened their own auto body shop.
And were the parents of the kind of the mindset, like, I don't know what to do, like, I'm literally thinking like they could be homeless, you know, like they were really, I mean, it wasn't like it was some super Mensa family, Rockefeller connection, or just normal families, and the parents come in scared as hell, and their kids are now going up, because that's the ultimate goal, is happy, successful, productive, self-sufficient life, right?
Right. Yeah. They are kids who struggled in the traditional learning environment. They found success. They got help. They got healthy. Biggest thing is they get healthy, and then they start finding that success academically, and we really tap into what they want to do. And a lot of them, what they leave me and go on to college and want to do, they always change. Kids always change what they want to major in, and because they start taking classes, and oh, I really like this or I really like that. And so they're more open to different possibilities. But yeah, I mean, we have kids that, you know, I guess the defining success is that they're able to take what they've learned and, you know, in some way, shape, or form that higher education is found. And I always tell kids that you don't have to go to college for higher education, but continuously growing and learning is a constant thing, and understanding that you're never going to stop learning.
You know, I should probably bring it in for a landing right there. And we've been talking for a while, and that's really a nice note. But I've got all these other questions. At least I'll ask one more, and it kind of will go off top, or you know, it kind of goes out of sequence almost. But you know, I think of like in case of emergency, break glass, right? So, yeah. What are your thoughts on? And I know it's on topic, but off topic. Like, what are your thoughts on, as parents, micromanaging children, or did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Or more the approach like, do your school, don't do your school. If you don't do your school, you're going to fail. You know, what are your thoughts on this hands-on to like, hey man, it's probably once they're mature enough, and I'm thinking 16 or 17 or something like that, like, you don't want to do school. You have to do school, man. Like, there's really no options if you don't have a high school diploma. Like, you're screwed.
You know, I think there's got to be a happy medium there, you know, because I think if you end up hovering too much, then they push away. And then not hovering at all, there's no accountability. So I think one of the most successful ways is keeping that structure as far as, all right, from 8 to 2, I have your phone. You can't do anything. You're doing school. This is kind of what's your goal for the day. You know, and I ask kids to keep goals every day. You know, you have your full goal, like let's say graduate high school by this date. You know, it's their own. So let's say you graduate high school by June 5th. Okay, so what's going to be the small goals that's going to help you do that? So what do you have to accomplish every single day to make sure you hit that goal? Well, I got to do 5 quizzes, or I got to do 5 assignments a day. Okay. So, and then just holding them accountable to that and saying, you know, at the end of the day, did you get your 5 quizzes done? Well, no, I got 4 done. It's like, all right, then I guess, you know, and whatever privileges are attached to that and holding firm to those privileges as far as, you know, then I guess you're not going out tonight until you get unless you get that last assignment in. Or,
and if they don't, then that's one of the things I know as a parent is the whole idea of setting boundaries causes anxiety, because in my mind I think to myself like, oh God, like please stay within the boundary because I don't want to enforce this. Like if you cross the line, man, like, you know, sometimes I've even pleaded with them, just don't, please. But they don't care. They don't care, man.
Well, and that's the biggest thing is like, it's just, for me, it's very, in this case, that's very business oriented. You know, like I tell my own daughter, I say, you got 4 quizzes you got to do a day, the end. And if you're not, this is kind of the structure. And they'll fight, you know, there's the initial teenage fighting you because that's their manipulation. If
totally unfair. It's unjustified. Yeah.
But I think that the more you hold that boundary, the less hands-on you have to be, because then it's business. You know, it's like this is what's going to happen, and that's the end of it. There's, you know, I think we get too emotionally involved into that because we love our kids and we want our kids to be. I don't know. I want them to have everything. I want them to enjoy life. I want them to, you know, have fun. But at the end of the day, yeah, you kind of have to pick your battles, I guess. And one of mine is, you know, school is necessary. It's a necessary evil, and I'm going to fight that battle.
School is a necessary evil. If you're a parent out there and you're thinking, what in the hell, and you read this article, so it's not going to catch everybody's attention, but if you're a parent out there and you've got a child, you know somebody who's got a troubled preteen or a troubled teen, and you're thinking, what are the options? What are the solutions? I get calls all the time. Hey, where, you know, about places. I'm going to tell you, you're going to want to connect with Megan. What she's doing is very cool. Let's just put your phone number in here. What's your website? I don't know if you know that. I'll make sure I put the phone number in here. But what's your website at Coral Sands there?
It's just coralsandsacademy.com.
coralsandsacademy.com. And if you don't know the number offhand, I'll make sure that I put it in here. But what I liked about this the most was kind of getting to the whole. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say I could give you the number. It's 435. 435-525-4343.
Okay, I'll put it in here. I'll put a little thing in we'll put a thing in the video as well. And I'm going to tell everybody what I liked about this most was kind of getting to the whole, like, what's the motivation for it, individualized is going to work. So I appreciate your time. I could ask 60 more questions, as you can imagine. It's valuable to me personally. I know that there's somebody else that out there is listening, and I'm trying to think of every question I can ask for a parent about what should I do, what could I do, what are my options. But I just want everybody to know that there's hope. I'm probably the most excited to realize that there's kids that are in engineering and medical school and stuff like that, that their parent at one time thought, I don't honestly know what's going to happen to them, and I think the hope is the central and core piece of everything. So, Megan, thanks so much for taking a little time to jump on today and share your thoughts. It's really valuable.
Thank you. I appreciate you very much.
All right, guys, this has been another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine at recoverytodaymagazine.com. Megan Pomeroy. Hang on just a second. I'm going to stop the recording.